There's a signed term sheet in front of me. Sign here, $84 million. All you got to do is sign. Moved to New York and I've become their guy. And I didn't do it. I liked having complete control of what I'd created.
Did you create a bunch of games before AdventureQuest?
I created about darn near 1,000. Land of Rising Evil. Man, Artix, this is the worst game I've ever played. Nobody is ever going to play this game. And everyone else was like, yeah, this is pretty bad. So I committed myself to making this better every week. We were on the phone with Galanoff and we're talking about names. What if we just called it AdventureQuest? On our press releases in 2007-ish, it would have said that we had like 200 million players, but we all know that was just my mom sitting there creating accounts nonstop. We built our second game called DragonFable, one of players' most favorite games. Release day was crazy. We made more money on the first day than the 2 years of development that it took us to build it cost. I built this, I went all out. I created an entire magazine that was a parody of issue number 2 of Nintendo Power. It tells the story of all this stuff here. We were going to go all in and remake AdventureQuest Worlds. We came up with the name to call it AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity. We ran this the Kickstarter for AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity, and we raised $2.149 million. And I was like, I don't know, they want me to get ads, and people in chat are like, can't get ads, that makes you look desperate. By 2007, we're spending about $500,000 a month on ads.
Whoa.
Next year, Andy, is going to be our 25th anniversary. We'd have 25 years of weekly releases in the original AdventureQuest. The game started off not because I wanted to make money, I just wanted to make a game. Hi, Andy.
Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Wow, you have a great mic. Love the background, love the setup.
Thank you. Wow, I've been watching all of your videos. Really excited to be a part of your show. Thank you.
No, thank you for coming on. I've been a big fan of AdventureQuest Worlds. Like, I played it when I was super young. I haven't touched it in probably 5-6 years. I actually tried logging in just before this. For some reason, it's not accepting my account. Maybe it's been deleted because it's been so... Do you guys delete old accounts?
No, well, if an account hasn't been used for a very long time and they've never made a payment, then they get sent to the void for a while and then they're cleaned after a super long time.
Do you know how long that time period is? Just so I can have an idea, maybe if that's what happened to my account.
I'd be happy to look your account up for you.
Oh, yeah, we can definitely do it after. But yeah, I used to play AdventureQuest World, AdventureQuest, EpicDuel. Yeah, I remember growing up with those games.
Right.
So it's so cool to find the creator. Yeah.
Oh, really nice to meet you too. Your history is really interesting. Like I read about your drop shipping and your courses, and you interview all of these amazing people from like, not people that I think normally get interviewed, and they share so much on your videos, which I intend to do too. I'm just going to drop everything.
I love it. We've already started recording, so I guess this will be a soft intro. Yeah, I guess how I first came about you was like, as I mentioned earlier, I've been playing games as a kid, and I think...
I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. It's been so fun. And, you know, I've started this podcast the last 5 years. I got into entrepreneurship. I sort of went into adulthood. And I remembered your game, and I was like searching up founders for different things I used to do. Like, I used to love playing this game called MapleStory, but I think it's like a Korean game. So I don't know if there's a founder or CEO I can talk to. But your name came up upon searching and researching about your game, and I had you on my Excel sheet, and I think maybe we reached out once or twice. So it's such an honor to finally have you on. And yeah, I'm very, very excited to nerd out about this beautiful world you've created.
So the honor's mine to be on your show. Thank you for having me. And for your audience, there's, I'm always looking for how to create the most value for the people that'll be watching this. What would really be useful for the audience of this video?
I think it'd be really, really cool for the audience to learn about the story arc on how you started the game, the ups, the downs, were there periods where you were about to go bankrupt? Was it easy? How you're able to sort of transition as the internet space changed, as people started playing more like downloadable games and like first-person shooters and like games like League of Legends. Did that affect your business? Where are things at? I think that whole, everything I just rambled out would be like, people would be like, whoa, that's a cool story. And I've learned a lot.
Okay. Well, they get their seatbelts, coffee, and let's get this journey started.
I guess, yeah. We'll start from the beginning. How did this game come to be? Was it your first game, AdventureQuest? Tell me a bit about your origin story, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. Ever since I was little, I wanted to make games. We got a computer. My father started this company, and they bought some computers, and one of them fell off the back of the truck and landed in our house. And it was supposed to be for my mom to do work at home, but I was the one that was there when because back when they had like computer guys, it was like I guess we still have that now. But anyways, that night with that computer in my room, I wrote my first game in BASIC. It was really simple. Well, it was hard for me at the time. It was a text-based game, and you would go to this room, and you had to go to another room and get a steak. And then you went to the other room, there's a vampire. And if you didn't have the steak, the vampire would kill you. If you had the steak, you could kill the vampire. My first game. So then I went to school, and randomly I told this boy, I made a game. He's like, oh my God, that's so cool. It doesn't have graphics. I said, no. He goes, tell me when you have graphics.
How did you learn how to code to build that game?
Well, our elementary school had a program that if they got a certain number of receipts, they would get a computer lab. As a result, they had all the kids come and they taught us BASIC. So that was it's like we're telling the story of history. We just went to the dinosaurs. So if we want to scoot forward just a little bit, there were these things before the internet called BBSs. People would actually set up computers in their houses, and you could call them on a phone through your computer, and you could play games like Legend of the Red Dragon, and you got to do your turns. It's kind of like I don't know, you got like an hour on the BBS to do whatever you wanted. But the game, I said, hey, can you give me access so that I can edit the game files and see if I can do something in the game? And the guy who ran the BBS was like, that's a terrible idea. Okay, here's the FTP information. So I went, I'm like, oh my God, I can change this. And I made an undead army invade the town. And the next week, all these people logged in, they beat the undead army. At the head of the undead army was this giant dragon that summoned the army, the commander of the army. And when the dragon was defeated, and they had to throw themselves at it for like days and days and days, I went into school the next day, and this kid came running up to me and he goes, hey, are you that Adam guy? I'm like, he's like, no, I was playing Legend of the Red Dragon. I can't believe you did that. That was like the greatest experience. He said it was the greatest experience. He connected to that. That was the moment that did it for me. When I realized I could build something, have a whole bunch of people participate in it, and then that was like a live event. It was a special release. It was a game that was changing under their feet. It wasn't pre-programmed. It was happening live, kind of, an hour at a time. So now we've gotten up to the, I forget the dinosaur ages.
What year is this?
Gosh, this would have been 1993-ish.
Wow, okay.
I'm old. I'm 50 and a half now.
You look so young, Adam.
Thank you, Andy. I wish I was as young as you. We have a really good crew at Artix Entertainment, and a lot of us go to the gym every day. And I think you do get to a point where, you have to focus on your mind, and you read all those success books and do all the courses online. And then you start saying, oh my gosh, I need to take care of my body. So we've hard pivoted onto that the last couple of years. And they let us dress up on Halloween, so we all come in armor and fancy get-ups and doth thou even hoist?
How did it transition from you building that game and creating that experience? Did you create a bunch of games before AdventureQuest? What was the
sure.
Yeah.
I created about darn near 1,000. Darn near 1,000. Like, and the problem is I never finished any of them. And if any of your viewers are like me, I would create something, get distracted by the next shiny object, create the next thing, get distracted by a shiny object. Like, I loved learning. I loved building. Finishing was not my forte. So in 2001, I had moved to Florida. I was in California. Before that, I was in college in Pennsylvania. So now we're in 2001. And I was in my spare time building games, working on an experiment where I could build a Flash front end. I could make a character jump on the screen, animate with a sword. I could dynamically load the sword into his hand dynamically. And I could design all these monsters and animate them. And then I could have a player log in, and the login would hit ASP pages, which would then save their data to a database. And you could play this game on your computer, and then you could go to your grandma's and log in and play from there. And you could go to the Apple Store and log in and play from there. don't think the Apple Store existed for another 5 years, but and I guess it was kind of cloud-based gaming before anyone used that term. So we went and it was Galanoff, Warlick, and myself, and we would talk every day about all these ideas. And I had 100 friends from my guild, the Krieger Guild, in this IRC chat, and I showed them my game project. It was called Lore, Land of Rising Evil. And it was Dryden who said, "Man, Artix, this is the worst game I've ever played. Nobody is ever going to play this game." And everyone else was like, "Yeah, this is pretty bad." And up until that moment, I'd always just kind of deleted and started over. That's partial truth. I never delete anything. I'm such a pack rat. I push it into another folder and start over. But I had gotten, am I going to admit this, the Tony Robbins thing about the constant and never-ending improvement, that maybe this isn't what you want it to be today, but if you just commit yourself to making it better, like maybe every week, eventually, inevitably, it'll become that thing that you want. So I committed myself to making this better every week. And I was bold. I went out and I begged people on forums. I begged people on anywhere that I could beg to come play my game. I'd make you a custom weapon. I'd make you a custom armor. I would draw the hairstyles that you liked. And this was really the start of what would become the culture at Artix Entertainment. Like our team members, almost all of them started as players. So I had Warlick came down to visit me here in Florida. And we were on the phone with Galanoff and we're talking about names. And we had all these weird, I wanted Daily Quest, but it sounded too much like Dairy Queen. And eventually it was like, well, what if we just called it AdventureQuest? It's you can't call it AdventureQuest. That name's redundant. And no, we can call that AdventureQuest. So we called it AdventureQuest because it's ridiculous, filled with quests and adventure. And that was the beginning. But the goal was to get 100 people to play 3 times each. Because if they played once, they didn't like it. They left. But if I could get them to play 3 times each, that meant that it was an actual game. And then I could say I built a real game, wipe my hands, and be done forever. But we didn't get 100 players. We got 1,000 and then 10,000 and 100,000 and millions and tens of millions. And on our press releases in 2007-ish, it would have said that we had 200 million players. But we all know that was just my mom sitting there creating accounts nonstop. Maybe it was the fact that we had this server cap. And once you hit a certain number of players, you couldn't log in unless you paid because the old servers were really bad because I coded those. So probably a lot of those accounts were people who couldn't log in building the account server. I mean, brutal honesty, right? The account numbers were really, really high. We had 200 million at some point. But actual, real players, probably more like 30.
That's still crazy. 30, 50 million.
Well, the crazy thing was the game was free, free. And the game started off not because I wanted to make money. I just wanted to make a game. But when thinking back, when I had the dream that I wanted to make money one day making games, right? Warlick and I, when we knew each other since the 5th grade, we'd sit up, he lived really far from me, and we'd sit up at night and making these stories about how, one day we're going to have this video game company and we're going to be, stuff. And but maybe you're an optimist, but I'm a pretty bad pessimist. So I never thought it would actually happen, but then it started working. There are a lot of people to credit that were not me for why all of this worked. We grew the company basically from that first, Land of Rising Evil, and we got to about 10,000 users, and the game was crashing so badly because I had there's a joke at the end of this. So it was crashing nonstop, and I didn't know why. And we went ahead and got kicked off the first ISB, got kicked off the second one, and the third guy was like, "Adam, I'm sorry, man. If you guys are crashing all of our clients because you're on this shared hosting, so you got to get a dedicated server. We're going to kick it off too." And I said, "Well, how much is a dedicated server?" He goes, $120 a month. I said, "What?" So now I'm fretting about this for a day and a half, and my father comes up and he goes, What are you so stressed out about? I was like, well, I have to get this dedicated server. It's going to be $120. He's like, well, why don't you ask the players to help pay for it? And I'm like, but the game's free. He's like, yeah, which is why you can't afford to have the server. And I'm like, okay, that actually kind of makes sense. So, but I didn't want to be greedy. So I said, okay, well, what if I made it $12? And it was like $1 a month, right? But it would never expire. And you could just pay $12 and I'd get you this like custom armor, this guardian armor, and give you access to a tower and all these like cool weapons and stuff. And that became the Guardian, which is the big purchase in our games. So then I released it, but the game servers were down, and 8 people signed up on the first day when the game servers weren't even up. Amongst them was one of our top artists and now lead of AdventureQuest 3D, Oishi. Oishi's amazing. And once I took $1, like that game had to last forever. I couldn't ever let it go down. So we started updating. The game was already kind of being updated weekly. We'd have these launch nights on Tuesday. People would come and hang out, and we'd like release new items. And if you were there, you got to keep the item. And then eventually, we started adding all of these like really cool features, like wars. So the combined players could fight against a giant army, the same way that guy back when I was in high school. Like I was recreating those experiences, and all of these talented people started getting attracted to the game, like Captain Rhubarb, who's our database administrator. Now, Captain Rhubarb saw where my game was crashing and said, hey, I work for Microsoft support. Could I take a look at this and maybe I could fix it? And you got to imagine, right? Like, this is my baby. I'm kind of scared early on. I get on the phone with them, and I think, I'm not as good at anything. Yes, sir.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, 25, 26.
And did you were you studying college? Did you drop out? Where are you at this point in life?
I got a business degree from Penn State, but I really wanted to be an artist. After college, during college, I had started a gaming guild, and it had about 2,000 members. One of the members owned an ISP out in California, saw my talent for doing web stuff and anything computer I did. He hired me and I moved out there. And then I was with that company for a short while. He had great mentor, great guy. He had health problems, and then I kind of became a web mercenary, and I worked for a bunch of different California companies. I actually came to Florida because my father called me up and said, oh, your mom and I are real concerned about you out there with them earthquakes. I'm like, but you get like hurricanes like every other week. And he's like, yeah, but it'd be better. And hey, if you come down here, you'll stop working in a cubicle. I'll teach you how to run your own company. I didn't really believe that was true, but he made good on that. And he was a really fantastic mentor. I really miss him. He passed away a couple of years ago. But I definitely, without him and so many of these other people that helped along this journey, it never would have happened. But you don't even know what happened yet. We probably should have started with that. Because
you're 25, you get that call from the guy that works at Microsoft.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, okay, here's a login for the server. Tell me what I messed up. I think I'm a very good judge of character. Typically, you can tell somebody who's authentic and sincere, who's Mr. Rogers called them, look for the helpers, like the good people. And he sure was. And he goes, well, I found the problem. I said, great. What was it? He's like, well, you know how you had the leaderboard? He's like, all of your other code, I was really impressed. Your other code was actually really good. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. But the leaderboard, you just queried all users every time. So every time somebody hit the page, every user in the game was being pulled into memory. I said, oh. He's like, yeah, so the more players you got, the slower and slower it get. The more they press the button, the more memory filled, the more lag, the more they press the button. I fixed it. And then the game was better. And he would go on to fix so many things in the game. Captain Rhubarb is one of the most genuinely awesome people I've ever had the honor of working with.
Does he still work with you?
Oh, he sure does.
Wow.
He is one of the few people, like you could tell him to do anything. He'd be like, okay, he'll go and build it. Because in this Kickstarter, we ran this, the Kickstarter for AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity. And we raised, how much did we raise? Let me a cheat sheet so I got the numbers right. $2.149 million.
Whoa.
And the Kickstarter had this pledge manager. Well, actually, we should probably hold on to the Kickstarter until we get there. But basically, the stuff didn't work. So he just built his own, and he did it in like 4 days. So then let's see. We were building the original AdventureQuest, and what is kind of a theme with Artix Entertainment games, you have really strong leadership, like Hollow's running AdventureQuest now, and the community is so passionate about the games, and talented people from the community, artists, animators, they show off their skills in the forums. Now it's on Discord, and then they're like, "Hey, would you like to come professionally help us so we can like pay you?" And then we started growing the team from the player base. That brings us to when we wanted to start changing the game in ways the players didn't like, because every week we were adding new content. Right now, today, this week, we have a new release coming out for that game that was created in 2012. If you paid $12 back when this thing was originally released, you have gotten so much from, like, it's the best gaming investment, like, unless, you know, some AAA games free on Steam, I guess, right? But 24 years of content. This October will be 24 years. 24 years of like weekly awesomeness, all basically responsible for those first 8 people and the people that kept it going.
Wow.
So then my father and his friend Dan, who's now known as Dan the businessman, he's our business development manager. You talk to him. He's a really great guy. Said, "Man, you should buy some ads for this game." And I was like, "I don't know. They want me to get ads." And people in chat are like, "Can't get ads. That makes you look desperate." And the culture of the early 2000s was very different than it is now. Because in 2000, people were like, I don't know, like, I liked this era probably the best. Everybody was a pioneer. Not everything had been invented yet. Like, there were so many things to kind of make happen. But it was my other friend, Tom, and he says, "I read this webcomic, and they have this like little spot down here. For $20 a day, you can buy this spot, and you'll," I said, $20 a day? And at the time, we're back in 2003, didn't have any employees yet, it was me solo working on the game. I said, "I'm only 0 to maybe 2, maybe 3 donations for this game," because there was donations in the very first days. This game, like, I can't afford that. And he goes, "Yeah, because you're not buying ads." I said, "You might have a point here." It's like, "All right." He's like, he goes, "Buy $5, $100. Hell, I'll give you the $100. Like, no, I'll pay the $100. So I went to Arby's with my laptop, and I sat in Arby's for like 4 hours making this like cinematic ad. Maybe some of your viewers remember seeing it when they were little. It was like, they had these like dragons and the people, it was like square. And put that ad up, and we got a ton of players. And I would normally get 1 to 3 Guardians a day. We got 40 on that first day. That was enough to cover the cost of the server for months. And then we got another 40 the next day. And I'm thinking, well, there's going to be some law of diminishing returns, right? Like, this is going to stop.
So if you're getting 40 Guardians paying users, you're getting like 400 or like 200 free players coming in on top of that, right?
Right. And back then, every like dollar we spent to bring in like one player would bring in like a couple buddies with him. It was very different in those early days. It was so easy to like advertise. We can talk about the dread and doom of advertising now towards the end, because that was one of our greatest challenges in the 2015s era, depending on how long you let me talk.
So 2003, you pay for those ads. It's $20 a day. It's a small ad at the bottom of this comic strip on a magazine or a newspaper, I'm assuming. And then,
It was Mega Tokyo by Fred Wood was the comic. I don't know if it still exists. I love Japanese culture and anime and manga, and this comic just really had its finger on the pulse.
wow. And then I guess they would release the magazine every week, and you would be at the bottom of it. It would give you a website, and this
It was a web comic.
webcom. Oh,
So it was just a little banner ad on the web comic.
And then it would send it to your AdventureQuest. Is it, or was it AdventureQuest World at this point?
It was just AdventureQuest.
Nice, got it.
So the first game was called AdventureQuest, and that game is still updated today. Same game concept, same gameplay. If you had an account, or we can recreate your account, that game to this day, and passionate team, Hollow's running it. Those guys are amazing. So so we started buying more ads, and my father, and maybe this is useful for your entrepreneurial audience, he's like, Oh, wait till we're spending thousands of dollars a day. You're gonna lose your mind, because I was still am, like, conservative, frugal, and he was right. There was a point by 2007 where we're spending about $500,000 a month on ads,
Whoa.
and those ads were so right now, like, it's pretty typical for major games to pay $2 to $5 per sign up, and these costs are prohibitive, right? We can't afford that, not for free players. But back then, we were paying 3 cents a click on Google and Yahoo Overture, which was really big at the time. Right, 3 cents a click. You hear, you probably know Russell Brunson, the ClickFunnels guy. He started at that same time. So when I heard his story, I'm like, yeah. So you can't really do that now. That was a really good time to be in acquisition mode. And our players, they fueled everything, right? I mean, they funded us, right? And we grew the team, and we grew the team from the player base. And then we were really close. We listened on the forums, and whatever they wanted, we tried to work it in. If they thought they knew what was going on, we tried to change it so they were wrong to keep them surprised. And I think the 2003 to 2008 era was like the best era to be like social on the internet, because everybody was so genuine and like pure back then. There was no clickbait yet. Trolling was around, but it was different. It was an interesting sport. I guess it still is.
You start scaling. How did you have the know-how to just like scale and start spending $500,000? Was that on a monthly basis on ads? How
Yeah,
did you
we had
even?
no idea. I don't ever remember a time in the history of our indie game studio that we actually knew what we were doing. It's like, okay, we got to federate the databases. Great. What does that mean? It's like, okay, we need to get to a content delivery network. Great. Tell me that like I didn't know what it meant. And then, all these companies would pitch us, and I'm allergic to third-party tools and stuff. Like, anything we can build ourselves, we did. So we built our second game called DragonFable. And DragonFable remains one of players' most favorite games. And right now, Tomix and the crew are just absolutely killing DragonFable to this day. It's awesome. Keeps going. The reason we built DragonFable was because I was really wanting to take AdventureQuest to the next level and make it a little more like Final Fantasy X. And I wanted a walk-around engine. I wanted 3 versus 3 fights. And the players got pretty mad when I tried to insert that into AdventureQuest World, the regular AdventureQuest. They said, well, we don't want you changing our game. And I remember, because we went to this convention, and these players showed up, and we had some merch at like one of the booths. I might be getting the year wrong on this. Now this is definitely out of order. But anyway, so like, yeah, don't change the game, because we love it like this. So I said, okay. So I'm like, it's time to put together a new team. And the other guys had already kind of ripped everything out of my hands, right? The problem is when you surround yourself with people who are better than you, they don't need you. So I'm like, okay, I get to go make a new game. So this is when we found Zoom, who's our top programmer, fantastic friend, coworker, project manager. He truly cares about everybody. He's one of a kind. The story of how I met him is also equally amazing. And then we had Cicero, who was one of our most beloved. He went on to work for another big gaming company, 15 years later, but he was instrumental in Artix Entertainment. Never forget what he brought to us. And we formed the team up around that, and we released our second game, DragonFable. Release day was crazy. Like, the original AdventureQuest had this like slow ramp up, and when we bought the ads, it was like, and we keep increasing the ads. But DragonFable, just one day you turned it on, and we made more money on the first day than the 2 years of development that it took us to build it cost. So those days, I think we had a lot of hubris, because everything we said, we were able to do quickly. Everything we were dreaming of, we did. And we had this espresso machine, Andy, and we didn't know it was espresso. So we thought it was coffee. It just didn't work very good. So you had to hit the button multiple times. We were pounding those coffees every day. Oh, the magic coming out of our fingers. Those were the best days of Artix Entertainment. My father would call and we would get into these arguments. He's like, well, you're really idealistic, and I know you think the world works this way, but eventually you're going to find out it doesn't. And it's like, as long as we're arguing, the players are getting really good stuff, and we're still making money. So let's keep arguing. There was at least one time where we had an argument where I punched a hole in the wall and he ripped his banister off of his stairs. So indie game dev life isn't always super groovy. So at this point, we're working in my house. So I had this, 3-bedroom, like little Florida 1-story house. And God, I love that house. And I was working out of the spare bedroom, but as we got people, we moved in the dining room and we brought routers out and just cables everywhere. And we had like Titan, one of our super artists, and Cicero and Zoom, and Saphiria, the vampire queen, was our first player support head. And then Nythera, who was her friend that came in, and Oishi was there. And we're just like crammed in my house. And
is your mom and dad still living there at that point?
no, I was there. This is my first house,
Oh, wow.
which funny story how I ended up there. That's probably for a different call. I had a dog named Daimyo, his little Pomeranian, and yeah, I was in a relationship that didn't work out, and somehow I ended up with the house, the dog, and a very large amount of credit card debt for expensive bags that I still can't pronounce the names of.
Oh
I
my
was a
gosh.
really stupid young guy.
And I guess at this point, AdventureQuest was doing well and you already had a ton of users and you had,
Well, this all happened before Adventure Quest, so like I was building it like when that all happened, which was
wow.
pretty scary, right? Because now you got like a mortgage and stuff, and I'm working 2 jobs while I'm building Adventure Quest.
Wow. So this is
I guess I
built on
left
the
that part
side.
out. Oh yeah, it was. People would talk to me when I went out, and it was one of my father's friends. He goes, "All right, so you told me what you do for work, but every time you talk about these games, I can see your eyes light up, right? Like I obviously this is your thing. You need to find a way to just do this." And I do think understanding that lifestyle, right? Because you're working all the time for your job. You come home, and if I wasn't making games, I was playing games, and if I wasn't playing or making games, I was thinking about them. Like I'd go to the mall, and I loved going to the mall, looking at all the manga videos back when the video stores existed, and the game stores. And I would just look at the covers, get so inspired, and then write home. And I didn't necessarily know what the games were like, but I would try to make something like it when I got home. Glad I hadn't put you to sleep yet.
No, I'm loving it. So you've this whole time it was a side hustle, and then you had that house, you had 2 jobs, and then eventually you split off with your partner at that time. You keep the dog, and now you have people coming over and working out of your living room. And I guess at this point, is it now a full-time job, or are you still working a full-time job in the
No, that's
day?
the really embarrassing thing. I'd never let any of my clients down. So I kept doing stuff until I couldn't and I could hand it off to somebody else. And then I remember Saphiria was like, "You cannot say yes to another one of these things. Every time you do this, you get derailed." I'm like, but. So eventually I had to say no to additional work. But I mean, it was a lifestyle, right? Like I woke up and everybody was already in my house by the time I woke up.
Hmm.
I'd walk out in my bathrobe and get that like triple shot of espresso, and they'd be just around the table and the thing and the stuff. And we got pictures of it. It was less glamorous, but the culture was amazing. When we started playing World of Warcraft, every 3 hours we'd take a World of Warcraft break to go to the Gurabashi Arena and try to fight for the chest. And like Fonz would put on the fighting music, and we all get in there, and it's the best of times. And the players were really awesome. Probably what I liked most about that schedule was I worked the same hours the players were online, because basically I worked, from it depends on the time, right? But I would work from, I'd wake up late, work in the afternoon, and play games sometime around like 11 to 1 with a couple guys, and then go back to work until about like 3 or 4, and then restart over. So when the players were posting stuff and doing stuff, I was there.
Hmm.
That was my biggest fear of when we got our first office. Because after we launched DragonFable,
Hmm.
well, we had this incident. The police came to our house,
Oh.
And they said, we saw all these cars parked out there. Your neighbors think maybe you're dealing, right? And I'm like, well, come on in. You want to play test this? This is the new game we're working on. And they didn't actually play, but they said they were like looking around all the cables and all the crazy stuff, and they're like, oh, okay, so you guys are making games. You can do that? I'm like, yeah. Around this time, DragonFable was live, and we went to New York to meet.
And with this massive Dragon Fable launch, you're still working a day job.
No, that would have been in 2005. So at this point, I'm working on Artix Entertainment stuff. I'm still helping with a couple other things, but my time is reduced, and the other guys would pitch in and help me whenever I needed to do stuff.
Got it. Okay, wow.
We
And
did get suckered into a lot of side projects, and I watched some of the videos with the other guys, and they seemed a little more hardcore than me. I have a hard time saying no to anybody that needs help on anything.
and what type of side jobs were you doing? Was it just normal tech development jobs on like corporate stuff
Oh my
or
gosh. If somebody needed a website for their business, if somebody needed like tech help, if they needed ads for their company, like because
Mm.
like my skill set.
And were you just charging by the hour or contract base? Were you like basic?
No, I'd always charge too little. Like I'd be like, oh, I'll do that for this amount, and it was always like some tiny amount that I'd work for like days on it and seriously regret it. But I always felt my time didn't really matter too much
Mm.
because when I was done, I'd get to go play games. So do you ever watch The Office, Andy?
I've seen a bunch of clips. I've seen the clips of the US version, the UK version, but I haven't sat down and actually watched it episode by episode.
So there's this character named Michael Scott,
Yes,
and he's the manager.
yes,
And Michael's problem is he's a people pleaser,
yes.
and the show wrote him really good like this because he makes these mistakes because he believes, right? The character believes if he doesn't have these people like him, that somehow he's in danger, and people not liking him is more dangerous than if he just broke this bad news to him or did the thing that was going to fix the problem.
Mm.
And that was also my problem. Still is, but better now. Like that's highly relatable. But also a good thing, right? Because as the team and the players and everybody needs stuff, like my role was to be the glue because I was this team of superheroes was kind of forming around me, right? The artists were way better than I'd ever been. The animators were way better than I could ever be. The programmers were way better. The writers were way better. And conflicts and stuff with inside our team, I was good at fixing that. I was good at keeping and I never could keep my hands out of the game projects. So as long as I was viable in a project, I'd be coding, animating, fixing, structuring, designing systems, and the game design stuff's pretty fun.
Yeah, that giant Fable, Dragon Fable launch. Oh yeah, why did it succeed? How did you get so many users? Yeah, why did it succeed?
Well, I think that when you're already big, it's really easy to make something and launch it. It's really
Hmm.
big because people who already love what you do are like, okay, well, you're going to do this, so I'm going to love this too, right?
Mm.
And I think that's the unfair truth about business and growing an audience.
Mm.
So one thing that I was curious. So I saw a lot of your videos.
Mm.
You had in such an amazingly diverse audience of people, but you had some people on there who had like 400,000 followers and stuff, but their video had very few views.
Mm.
I was wondering, why didn't you ask them to promote the interview with them?
I
I mean,
think
it might not have been an audience.
maybe it was like out of my people pleasing nature. I didn't want to inconveniently ask them to share it to their audience. I thought if they, I would share the episode to them after the podcast was released. I'd be like, hey, here's a link to it. Feel free to share it to your audience. So I would sort of let them know that, hey, you can share it, but I would never directly and be like, hey, can you read? Like, I was never directly asking. Can some guests would, some guests wouldn't, but I'd never sort of give a really, really strong ask. Maybe that's why. Not too sure why some of them wouldn't share it. Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to be sharing this, so let's see what happens.
That's awesome.
Hopefully, we have some young entrepreneur players who'll hear this and take some diamond out of it.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that it was just sort of like this rolling journey of you basically doing what you love every day didn't really seem like work to you. Like it seems like from what I'm hearing, you've been able to just live your dream life for the last 50 plus years. And that's because you consciously chose to just do what you love on a daily basis. Or am I reading it wrong?
Um, I think it was really stressful along the way, but I wouldn't have wanted to do anything else. I think you'd have just as much stress doing anything, right? So you might as well have stress doing something you actually legitimately are obsessed with.
Mm,
And I think everybody on the team has that particular, there's something wrong with us, like we can't not do it.
mm,
So we made DragonFable, and we'll speed up through the next 20 years, okay?
mm.
We made DragonFable, and that game is still weekly updated to this day.
Crazy.
We made MechQuest, and MechQuest was weekly updated for many, many, many years. It's the first game we ever finished.
Mm,
And it was like a sister game to DragonFable. We built it off the same engine, first time we'd ever done that. And then we built AdventureQuest Worlds. This was 2008.
mm.
It was New Year's Eve of 2007, so it's about to become 2008. And I invited everybody over to my house, and they said, "Why are we bringing our laptops?" I'm like, "Oh, we're going to write a post." Okay. And then we announced that our next game was going to be a massively multiplayer game in Flash, running your web browser. And literally everybody was sitting there at the table, and they're like, "Do we actually know how to do this?" I'm like, "We're going to figure it out." Now I knew something they didn't know. We had built a small prototype to see if it was feasible. So we knew that it was technically possible, and we were going to do it. And what was interesting at this particular phase of our existence, we were doing that big ad spend on ads. We had our game cards in gas stations, in Best Buy, in Circuit City. Was that Circuit City? Yeah. We had television. No, we didn't have television commercials yet. But we were doing a lot of things, right? Dan, the businessman, was hard at work. So, and we just built the creative and stuff, and like we were building so much. And they're like, "Well, aren't you going to get stretched thin when you build MechQuest? Because you're going to build like 3 weekly updating games." I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe we'll get more people." So I went to this DragonCon convention. Oh my God, the first times we met who were playing our games, we were like, "Oh, you guys are all cool." It's like, and this one guy came up to me, he's like, "Oh, you're Artix." I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "I can't wait for MechQuest." I'm like, you're actually following the news? And he's like, "Yeah, but like I love sci-fi and mechs. So this is like, please release this game." So, and then that becomes part of the cycle, because a big part of the juice for the team is we make a release. We do it weekly. So we come up with the idea on Monday. Not anymore. We're a little more advanced now, but back in the day, come up with the idea on Monday, release it on Friday, and Friday, right after the release, watch the forums, and you see how you did. Players like it. Bugs. Like, are they screenshotting and posting pictures of their favorite moments? Oh my God, when they post pictures of their favorite moments, that's the magic.
Mm.
Because that's what the team actually like fuels by, right? Is that we did a good job. And what kind of sucks is a lot of the time the things that make the most money make the unhappiest players. We noticed that very early on. Like, you do a sales push, everybody gets mad because they want the thing for the sales push. And if you build something that's super great and everybody loves it, then if you don't got to buy anything, they don't buy anything because they're happy. So finding a balance where we make the players really happy, but we also keep the lights on is important. MechQuest doubled DragonFable's launch.
Oh.
And every week during this era, this like 7-year stretch, the sales of this week were higher than the sales of the previous week. And
And these games are all single player at this moment.
up until AdventureQuest Worlds, they had multiplayer elements, but they were single player games.
Wow.
And the internet was growing so fast.
Mm.
So we made AdventureQuest Worlds, and we made it in 8 months. Crazy. And the games that were, God, I can't remember some of the names. there's this one kind of anime style game, and they were also working on an MMO. And when they heard that we were launching, they sped up and they released this like disastrous like launch, and then the whole thing kind of fell apart. And I was like, are we responsible for that? Do we matter? So, and our players initially did not like AdventureQuest Worlds. They thought the art was too young looking. And the reason was because we needed less line art, because we needed more characters on the screen. And Flash is a vector-based program. That means the more lines and fills, the more complicated the character, the more processor time it takes. And if we're going to have 20 characters on screen, they have to be simple. So the initial characters were very, very simple. Nowhere near as good as looking as DragonFable characters, because we tried to tone them down. That doesn't start the artists now, but back then. So AdventureQuest Worlds initially did not do very well. Most people would not have ever realized this. The game did not have a super strong launch more than MechQuest, right? It was kind of like in line. And the sales really tapered off for about 2 months. And it was in January I realized I needed some help. And at this point, we had a whole bunch of great people on the team. We had Corin, the animator. We had Jurgen, who super animator, project lead, tons of new artists. He wanted to go by the name Jay. His favorite number was 6. So we called him J6. But then political stuff. So now we just call him J hashtag, but it's J6. He's a super, super creative artist. He's responsible for almost all of the background art in AdventureQuest Worlds. The world map, the look and feel of the game is like his beautiful soul work. We made our first ever commercial for AdventureQuest Worlds for TV. We did the audio recording in my bathroom. Let's see. Then in January, I asked Cicero, who every time I would leave to move on to a new project, somebody would take over the previous one. So Cicero was running DragonFable, and I said, hey, I'm really struggling with AdventureQuest Worlds. Can you come to this project and help? He's like, sure. And he logs in, he looks around and goes, I think I see the problem. It's like, what is it? Is it the graphics? Is it the NPCs? Is it the game design? He goes, no, you don't ever ask them to pay. I said, oh, you want to fix that? And he did, and then the game was fine. So AdventureQuest Worlds ended up, and the big thing was nobody on the team, not a single person, was willing to commit to weekly releases to an MMO. Like, you can't do it. It's impossible. It's a massively multiplayer game. You can't update it every week. So we were updating that every week. I smiled and nodded. I don't consider myself a liar, and I have an honor code that I live by. It's simple. But when you get that level of resistance, but you're doing it anyways, you just smile and silently agree, okay? And then you do it anyways. Because if there's one thing that Artix Entertainment has done correctly, that is these weekly releases. Producing something fun, new, and interesting and different to do every week. So this is the game that just this past year, a couple months ago, we ran the Kickstarter for. So the game is 15 years old, the original.
Yes.
And is by far Artix Entertainment's most popular and successful game. If Artix Entertainment's like success chart was like a pie chart, AQ Worlds would be like Pac-Man.
Wow, so that means all the game cards that I was seeing all the way in Australia and Sydney initially started for AdventureQuest, and then AdventureQuest World just took over and everyone's buying AdventureQuest World sort of game cards. Is that what happened?
There is one story I'd like to toss in the middle here, because as we were getting ready to build MechQuest, my father took us on a tour, and we were getting so many calls from investors, venture capital studios, venture capitalists. And we toured all of the big AAA companies and kind of put ourselves out there. I obviously didn't want to do this, right? But it was very important to my father that, did all these things. And I sat with people who, and maybe I can admit this now, I didn't know the people who built these games. I didn't know who the CEO of Sony Online Entertainment was until I was sitting there meeting him, right?
Mm.
And like what an honor. I learned everything real quick after that. I was study spree, but I was just, I think a lot of YouTubers feel this way now where they have like their slice of the world that they see and they don't pay attention to any of this, right? Because that's how I was. I was just here in my world, building my games, doing the things that I knew how to do. So at the end of the day, we got a lot of offers on the company, but the high score was $84 million, 20 million in cash, the rest in an earnout.
Wow.
And I was sitting over with my father and my mother at their place, and there's a signed term sheet in front of me. Sign here, $84 million. All you got to do is sign. I'd go move to New York, and I'd become their guy. And I didn't do it. I liked having complete control of what I'd created. I liked the destiny being in my hands. I was not going to fire my team. I was not going to, and they didn't ask me to, right? But when they go that these decisions get made and the focuses change, and they definitely wouldn't let me do any of the stupid ideas I wanted to go do. Because after I said no, we went and made action figures of my character and stuff and put them in Toys R Us. We did the live events with Voltaire. We did card game. We did the that's where the brain just stopped working. But we did a lot of stuff.
Mm.
So then a company approached us called EpicDuel, and this was a Titan and Night Wraith. Really cool guys. And they're like, hey, we see you don't have PvP in your games. We made a PvP game. I think it'd be a great lineup. I said, come on down to Florida. We're like, well, we could implement our database stuff. We could put our payment systems together. And one thing that was really interesting when I met with those bigger companies, and they all said the same thing. They said, well, who does your back end? I said, well, we made it.
Mm.
Wait, you made the payment systems? Like, well, we have PayPal and stuff, but we integrate all these payment processors into our system.
Mm.
And they're like, and we show them, right? And they're like, wait, you can see your numbers in real time?
Mm.
I said, yeah, because they come in the database and we hit this, we had this refresh button. It was like playing cookie clicker, right? Every time you refresh it, you can see the sales going up. And said, well, okay, you want us to do this for you? They're like, no. See, we sell like box stuff and we don't get our numbers until like, almost like 4 months later.
Mm.
I said, oh. And they were trying to understand our space because they were going to come to our space, right? Because we were ahead of the curve back then. We just knew things and we didn't know what we had to know. You know that old saying, sometimes you don't know what you know and you don't know what you do know. And
Yeah.
So yeah, then we acquired EpicDuel and it was a sweetheart deal. It wasn't very much money for the sale, but the guys got full control of their game. And I was smart enough to be like, no, this is your baby. I'm going to give you all the resources to go fix this thing and make it viable, because they had scalability problems. But they were really great game designers and they were very passionate. They had a huge, passionate community. And it was like the perfect, like EpicDuel and Artix Entertainment just worked.
Mm.
And everybody involved with that feels like that was just the best thing to happen. And kudos to him for bringing that to the table so that we could make that happen. And a lot of happy players. This part of the story would go later, but secretly, just last week, one of our coders made a Infinity fork of our new game for EpicDuel.
Oh.
Don't tell the players that, because they're gonna want it faster than we're actually gonna have time to build it. It's there. So then we were doing pretty good, and we bought this giant office. See, we had moved. We were in my house. Then we were in this little dentist office during DragonFable and MechQuest. And then we got this like little one-story like building. And we were there when we launched AdventureQuest Worlds and EpicDuel. And then we got the one next to it. So we had two little buildings and there's one floor where player support was. Boy, I got some stories from there, but we'll keep kicking on. Then like they tried to like more than double the rent on us in like 1 month. And I said, no. And we started looking for alternative places to go. And there were so few good options. And this one building came up. This place was huge. It looked like the White House, right? It's got these like pillars in the front. It's like 2 stories tall. And I'm like, we can't afford this. And they're like, actually, this costs less than what those guys were going to charge you. I'm like, how's that possible? He says, well, see, the company that built all of this was renting out the top, but they got into some trouble, so they're trying to lease out the space, but they might try to take it back in like 2 years. Okay. So we took this place, right? We show up like we were not worthy of being there because we didn't wear shoes. Everybody brought their dogs to work, like we had catered food brought to the office. Sometimes we'd eat bat, and we did take that coffee machine out of my house and put it in the office. That went with us everywhere we went. Coffee machine. I wonder if that would still work today. So we're in this beautiful place, and downstairs there's all these like bankers and the Pasco Economic Development Council, like all these like important people, and we're like screaming and making dragon noises, recording our videos upstairs. And they had this one empty space downstairs, and I said, "Can we borrow the empty space and set up an illegal underground like wrestling zombie federation ring?" And they must have thought that like maybe I was gonna like pull out of the deal or something, like, or maybe they're just really nice. I think they were really just nice because they let us, and we bought an old wrestling ring from the TNA company, the wrestling one, and we set it up in there, but it was too high to the pipe. So every time we did stuff, we'd hit our head on the pipe. And we hired, can't believe I'm blanking on this. I did tell you I'm 50 and a half, right? The mind starts going. Pat Tanaka from the Orient Express, from the old like WWF wrestling. Okay. And he would come down and coach us like every other day.
Wow.
And Hulk Hogan's Micro Championship Wrestling, those guys would come down and hang out at the ring and train with us. Oh, we got into so much trouble because there's this guy named Chairman Platinum. He's the head of our fictitious Evil Corp. And he was really connected with the film industry here in Tampa. So he would keep bringing all of his film friends over. And there were so many terrible adventures. Like, we got to know the American Ninja Warrior guys, the first generation crop of those guys back when, and I got to be on the show with a couple of my friends. I wore armor. The armor floats. Didn't know that until I fell into the water. The silliest things, we did a lot of silly things. We used to dress up in chicken suits and film. We filmed so many terrible, silly videos. Everything's PG that we do. Everything's family friendly, but it was a very experimental time, and like that office was the best. But around 2015, this is the part where the story gets sad, right? Google changes its algorithm. I think it was the Panda update or whatever they called it. And we lost half of our traffic in one day. And you wouldn't think that would hurt so much, but there's like a downward spiral effect. And suddenly we can't make payroll. Well, I mean, we had the war chest, but the monthlies weren't going to make payroll. And we realized that if we were gonna survive, we had to go through in my opinion, the darkest actual period of Artix Entertainment history, because everybody I worked with was my friend. Like, we were all friends. And we got into a situation where we had to reduce the size of the team or we couldn't float. So the darkest saga, in my opinion, of our story. And I talked to each person independently, like individually, right? I had the conversations, and big credit because some of those people were really, really talented, vital members of the team. Just we didn't have a choice. So that happened, and Flash was dying, and all of our games were in Flash. And we knew that it was any like Mac, was already pulling it. The iPhone didn't support it. All of the things that we had invested into. I have some, there's the next game we were building was called AdventureQuest 3D. We're going to remake AdventureQuest, but now we're going to do a 3D MMO, like World of Warcraft, And we were betting the farm on this technology because I went to, I think it was like E3 or CES or one of those things. I met one of the founders of Unity, and he told me, he's like, no, this is absolutely going to be able to work. You're going to be able to export, from Unity to Flash, ActionScript, and you're going to be able to run these 3D games in your browser. And we started building for it. And I got darn near $1 million into the development of that project. Wow. And they pulled it, just gone. So I said, okay, And this wasn't the first time we've had, harrowing losses, right? I don't think we were ever in so deep on something. We were so committed. We'd spent, now like a year of our lives or more like on this. I said, okay, if the mobile games are coming to kill us, let's make mobile games. So we built our very first mobile game called Battle Gems. And we released it. It got Best New Game on the Apple App Store. It was a cute little game. It was really fun. We had like Cicero and Jurgen and I designed the store's 512 levels. Financially, I don't think that game could have supported one of our salaries. Like one person on the team could not have been floated by that game. It just was not. It was not going to be the future of Artix Entertainment. But because everybody worked on that, we all learned Unity. And that was the value of that project. And secretly, I kind of knew that going into it. I expected the project to take 2 months. It took like almost a year. But that's how we learned Unity. So then, or I guess that's how we learned mobile development. So then we tried some other games, and they all flopped. And 2015 era, not my favorite. I don't know if you've ever had this, Andy, like where just like everything's falling apart around you, and like you're the guy, right? Like it's all on your shoulders. And you go home at night, you put on Dexter, and you just sit there chain watching Dexter until like 3 o'clock in the morning until your brain finally passes out. But then I realized that I was really low, right? And the team was really low. So I went to this 4-day long business seminar thing. And during that, man, I drank the Kool-Aid. I got my head on straight. I was like, and everyone was joking that I was going to go to this thing and drink the Kool-Aid, right? So like, oh, don't go to these things. They like brainwash you. And, maybe it's really important that you kind of marinate your mind into like that other kind of culture, that you're surrounded by people who are, chasing their entrepreneurial dreams. My 2 biggest heroes, one is Aurelio Voltaire. He's a musician. He's a super dark, spooky, creepy, goth, creative guy. He's built animated series, huge number of albums, movies now. He's on tour for his new movie. He is, if you could get an interview with him, he is a fascinating person. The second would be Danny Chu, the creator of Smart Doll. He is so committed to excellence. He had the #1 like otaku destination website in the world, Culture Japan. And at some point he's just like, nope, I love ball jointed dolls, the Japanese ball jointed dolls, and I'm going to commit my life to building these. And then he did. And I was a fan of his before this. I was surprised by this shift, but I bought one of his first dolls because I just believe so much into what he is. I flew out to Anime Expo just to shake his hand once. And he is by far one of my biggest inspirations of like how to create quality consistently. And when I went to Japan, I got to see his operation, and he is the real deal. But the thing that's the same about both of these people, despite being so different, Aurelio Voltaire and Danny Chu, both of them 100% committed to doing what they cared about, like their dream and their passion, right? They kind of, I guess to use modern slang, they are so based, like absolute based. I want to be more like both of them. So I went to this business thing, and I came back, and I'm pumped up. I'm going to go back. I'm gonna turn this whole thing around. And I had already decided before I left, the thing that was so demoralizing was the team worked so hard on AdventureQuest 3D, the first edition. And we stopped and we did all this other stuff, and none of the other stuff worked. I was going to go back. I was going to tell the team, and I told all the leads, because we meet on Monday. They'd all come in this big office. We'd be around this big wooden table. And we go through all the projects, what we're doing. I said, don't even bother bringing your the things. We're meeting on this one topic. Come in. And they walk in, and there's this giant bowl of punch in the center of the table. This story sounds kind of more terrible now that I'm telling it this way. But they all came in, they're like, and I had all these cups there, right? And they're like, what's this? I'm like, that's for later. And I said, look, I want you all to take out a piece of paper. And if you're watching this, maybe you should do the same thing. Take out a piece of paper. Write down what you really, really want. Like all the things that like you want to accomplish, that you want to do here. And I said, then write down what thing upset you the most that got in the way, that didn't happen. And then I told them that was for them. Find a way to fix these things the way I'm about to fix this. My number one is that we put everything into AdventureQuest 3D and it didn't happen. It got yanked out from under us. As of this moment, I'm recommitting us. We are going to build and release AdventureQuest 3D. But this time, they're not going to be able to yank it out from under us. We're going to build it for every platform, for PC, for Mac, for Android, for iOS, for your toaster. And everybody in the room starts kind of like, oh, this is like old Artix. This is like pre-2015 Artix. And then I'm like, so what do you...
And is this now 2016, 17? What year are we at in that meeting?
I don't know. It's all a blur. It's around there. Maybe this happened in 2014. Did I mention I'm 50 and a half? It's roughly the right story. But then I said, so what do you say? Let's drink. And everybody drank that punch and was pretty happy that they survived. So we drank the punch, and then we went and made AdventureQuest 3D. But we still had a money problem. We couldn't afford, we knew exactly what our runway was, and it wasn't long enough. So introducing Kickstarter. Apparently, you can go into Kickstarter, you can tell people exactly what you're doing, and if they believe in what you're doing, they will send you money to help you go do the thing. We made the Kickstarter, we put in custom items, we put in rewards. For this first Kickstarter, we'd never done it before. I had, I guess they call it straight edge. Never drank, never smoked, never did drugs. And I'm not saying this to say that I'm all like greater or nothing. It's just going to make what I say next funnier. Okay. And I don't judge other people. Everyone's got to be responsible for themselves. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. As long as we're all happy and not hurting anybody. But I'd gotten this injury and they prescribed me prednisone. Is that, have you ever taken this?
No.
So it's like a steroid. Like it's only for 5 days. And the first one, you have like these 5 tablets. And I don't take like anything, right? Like I won't take aspirin if I don't have to. But like to deal with this like infection injury thing, I had to take this. And I thought, no, there's 5, so you just take all 5 of them. I think you're supposed to space them out through the day. But I took all 5. And I went into work that day. I could smell people across the office. I built that entire Kickstarter on prednisone in one day. I shouldn't be admitting any of this. This is so terrible. Like I've never had an experience like that. Once that thing ran, because it was only for 5 days, right? And it took 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Yeah. And once that stuff ran off, I felt like garbage. I don't think I ever felt as good as I felt before that after I took that. But we launched the Kickstarter. And on day 1, we get to like 25% of our funding goal, which I think was, I don't know, I'm going to be wrong on this number. It was like somewhere around $200,000, maybe $250,000. And we got to like 25%. And then it just flatlined. And the players are watching this and doing the math, and they're like, they're not going to make it. This thing just stopped. Like this thing's dead in the water. We'd never run a Kickstarter before. So we did what we always knew how to do. We bought a lot of very expensive ads. Didn't really do anything. Like just, it didn't work. I'm glad we tried. But then I was on a call, and if you've ever run a Kickstarter, if anybody watching this has ever run a Kickstarter, it's really scary when, you're trying to do the marketing and you're trying to tell people about what you're doing, and you're also working on the thing, right? So I was on a call, and I had this time management coach, really, really great guy, Mark Jamnick. Highly recommend him. And he goes, well, I assume you emailed everybody about this, right? And I'm like, yeah, everybody? He's like, yeah, you have all the users of the other games and stuff, not just like, okay, I'm going to make an email and I'm going to send it to everybody. And then I said, but I'm not going to ask them to buy it. I'm just going to tell them exactly what I want to make. And I went in, I asked Dage, who's one of the most famous top artists in our company. Dage is ruler of the Undead Legion, super fan favorite. I said, would you draw me concept art for these monsters that I want to recreate in the game? He goes, absolutely. I said, okay. I put out this email, and the players that read it saw exactly what we wanted to make. And the day after that email went live, the Kickstarter went zoom. And then once you do something that works, right? Once you've actually done something right, you do have to force yourself to do it again. So the next week, I wrote another email with exactly what it was we wanted to create. Shot past our goal. Between the Kickstarter and the PayPal account, we ended up somewhere around like 450,000 for the Kickstarter for AdventureQuest 3D. And any AAA game studio, which I'm certainly not, but anybody watching would say, well, you can't make an MMO on $450,000. That's like, you know how much these devs cost? It's like, yeah, but I didn't need $450,000 to pay everybody full time. I needed it to pad the difference between what we weren't making so that I could extend the runway until it was live, and then we could afford to keep everybody. And that's what we did. The Kickstarter was very educational. And then we had the custom weapons, and you had to go actually build the custom weapons. And when you're building stuff for the team, like they're really passionate about the stuff they make. So are the people that build customs, and they are way more picky than, because the team's like, okay, we'll have to cut stuff because we'll have to make it work. But the backers that are custom, like they had very grand visions, and it's like, okay, we have to get better at communicating so we can make expectations right. So we deliver what they want, and this is their dream weapon. But at the same time, we don't kill our artists. And some of those folks were asking for like updates to their weapons like 5 years after we made them. And we're like, is there a polite way to say that we have to have like a cutoff? It's like, well, no, not now. But when you do it next time, make sure you set expectations so that everybody knows that it's, and if anybody needs something, obviously, I don't know how to say no. So we'll fix something for anybody, but expectation setting. So I think we've gone to about the 50% mark of this call. Sorry.
Because I didn't want to interrupt you. I've been writing. I got like a list of questions with different things in between that you're talking about written down, because I didn't want to put my hand up too many times.
Well, feel free to interrupt, because I'll just talk forever.
So this whole period, you have reoccurring subscription payments for your other game?
No, we've never had reoccurring payments.
So you were you were still making money through those one-time payments of people wanting to buy stuff in game, whatever it may be. That was still happening.
Good question. So we do have one-time packages for some of the games. And then we have a membership, which is a time limited. So you buy it and then it goes for 6 months, and then you have to buy it again. And we have, Adventure Coins and Dragon Crystals, which are a type of in-game currency where you can buy the items that gauge the evil and fight and make, and then you can customize your character and look however you want.
Wow. So you had a very solid fan base where that was still consistent, and you just needed to cover the difference, that buffer. But you had like a solid base of cash flow already on a monthly basis.
Yeah, because when the Google just dropped, right? The sales dropped with it. And we need to cover that amount so that we could. I never wanted to lay off anybody again.
Wow. How big was the team at your peak before the Google issue happened?
I want to say that we peaked around 53 team members during that era, not including contractors that they were like. I think these numbers that I tell you are just going to be like a little bit wrong, but there were at least like 30 of us in the office at that time at the Secret Underground Lab. And we've always had a lot of contractors that worked with us that we met through the game in Canada and South America and Australia now. Currently, I made a cheat sheet for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Currently, we have 105 total paid team members.
Whoa.
But 18 of them are here in Florida, which is way smaller number than before. And we have 44, in Battletech, they have like house regular units and mercenaries. So mercenaries are kind of like contractors, and house regulars are like your, internal forces. So we have 44 contractors that are like house regulars, right? Like they've just been with us forever, and they're just not W-2s because they don't live here. they're in Canada or Australia. And then on top of the 62 house regulars, we have 43 peace contractors. These are people who either are relatively new or like some of these guys are really, really freaking talented. Well, actually, they all are, but some of them are like super talented. They build an armor set for a fixed amount, and the more items we need for our releases, then the more work they have. Which let's make sure we circle back around to this when we get to the custom items for the Infinity Kickstarter, because we are going to have work for these artists for a very long time. That Kickstarter created some baked in longevity and security that's very, very grateful to these backers.
Wow. And when the Google happened and then sort of your traffic just got cut, if you were to just run the company as is, how many people could you consistently employ at the new run rate if you were to let go people and you didn't figure out how to close the buffer?
I don't know. That was like over 12 years ago. That was 12 years ago. Um, I'm not sure I remember.
Mm,
It was definitely the most stressful period. It was like a dark cloud every day going in on
mm,
that. And you have to go online and be super, like, I don't know. In that time, I was very hypey. I
mm,
would, I was very accustomed to whatever I said on the forums, on, the design notes, the social media. It just happened.
mm,
Everything we did just magically happened. And we had a reputation for it.
mm,
And there's a certain energy that, is contagious that you have to put out there because we're in love with our stuff.
mm,
But the only way that anyone would know that is if they read this, right?
mm,
And then they're like, oh, these aren't just pixels. This is like their dreams and ideas and childhoods and inspirations, and like you can be a part of this.
mm.
So things did not entirely get better for Artix Entertainment. AdventureQuest 3D has was definitely our most ambitious project. We succeeded. We've released it on all platforms. It is weekly updated to this day. It is by far the most complicated thing we had ever made. It was a stretch because we didn't have those skills yet. And then I think we'll skip over the drama of the 2019s because we hired a lot of young folks,
Mm,
um, and the culture had shifted both
mm,
online and in the workplace.
mm,
If I think Artix Entertainment culture would have been kind of condemned as like a weird, like unhealthy hustle culture
mm,
because we work like crazy, right?
mm,
Like to do the releases on that schedule, you have to have a level of madness
mm.
because it's not a work, it's a lifestyle. Like nobody 9 to 5s, right? Like we're eating, breathing. I'm up till 3 a.m. like writing, Throne of Darkness or the Doomwood Saga or coming up with the stuff, and then like we have to go and make it.
Mm,
And we released AdventureQuest 3D, and there were some things I really wanted to do, and the team was excited. We did our first battle concerts. So we got the band Korn, Alice in Chains, and Breaking Benjamin to let us draw them, put them in the game, build a concert around them, and to make the game fun, we filled the mosh pit with monsters,
mm.
and we had a scripted event. Like I don't want to call it like the Chuck E. Cheese like scripted event, but like when we were building it, like that's all we could think about. Like it's like, well, these things are going to happen in order, and the band's going to play, and then the monsters will spawn to the music, and then the stage will break, and these things will like fly all over the place, and will teleport you to a new location, and then these monsters will flood, and then you got to fight them and stuff. And I loved that experience. I loved all those experiences. And then we had our 20th anniversary. That was in 2002, and I was really going through a horror movie host kind of phase. And I was researching Elvira, and I'm like, back when I was a kid, I would watch Scooby Doo, and Scooby Doo would draw famous people like Elvira and put them in the show. And I always use that as an example of like, it's like, oh, well, I'd like to put you into the game, kind of like how Scooby Doo used to put Elvira into the game. But I was like, could we get Elvira? So I contacted Elvira's manager, and we got Elvira in the game. So she hosted our 20th anniversary event, which was like the greatest thing ever. I have a card up on my shelf that she sent. Oh, she's so cool.
This whole period from like 2019 to 2020, 2022, was it stressful just seeing your runway just get smaller and smaller? Like, how are you sane and being able to like host like horror movie nights and yeah, like any advice there?
We never stayed like idle.
Mm,
Like when something goes wrong like this, like you can't hang on, I'm looking for the human words for this. If you just let it fester, it's going to get worse.
mm,
If you take massive action, even if the massive action is wrong, it can lead to the correct outcome
mm,
because action causes more action. Life's not fair like video games now. Life is like the original Mario Brothers. See, in the original Mario Brothers, you're like little Mario. You get hit once, you're dead.
mm,
But you get the flower, and then you're like bigger Mario. Now you
mm,
can hit twice, but you get another flower. And now you're breathing fire as big Mario.
mm,
And you get the star, and you're running really fast. So the better you do, the better you do. And that's how life really is. So to create that momentum, you have to take massive action. There's no choice. We were always taking massive action. We were trying things, and there were some decisions that I made that I think were a little controversial. Someone's going to see this and be like, I know what he's talking about. Still doing it to this day. But that was the thing that saved us. And was it the right thing to do? I mean, yes. There was no other option. It was. In the current landscape, like there were so many shady, terrible things we could have done during our 24 years, and we didn't. We got punished for not being as greedy as a lot of these other companies. But we're still here, and a lot of those other companies are not
mm,
because we actually care about our games. We weren't building the games as like infinite money farms, although the players may feel like they are sometimes because when you're doing the same thing every week for 24 years and there's no breaks. We release during holidays, hurricanes, when we're sick, when the team members have deaths in the family. If the players knew what went on behind the scenes, well, our players would care, but I don't think most people in the world really care about us as creators, right? Most people play and they care about what they get from the thing that they're enjoying.
mm,
And that's a really weird thing to kind of insert into here. But for anybody listening that's a creative person and really thinking about, creating things that matter, it's not about us. I enjoy telling you my story, but the only thing that people are going to get from this is if there's something that I did that they hear and they're like, I could do that. Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, so you got to spend money to do this. Okay, but you did this, but this doesn't work anymore. So what does work now? That's what the people are going to care about.
mm,
So AdventureQuest 3D was definitely our most challenging project. And we brought in a lot of these young folks, and I have stories, but we learned through that era, right? Like, you can't exist for 24 years and not have, bad stories and problems. I think the fact that we have most of our original team members, and then as this story is about to go, we brought back a lot of those people that we lost in 2015.
mm,
I don't think you can go this long without having those stories. But
mm,
the difference is, did you learn from it? And we sure did. We sure did. And the thing that changed it was, I got to relate to this one, was this project. This is Dungeons and DoomKnights. It's a new game for the 1985 Nintendo Entertainment System. So sometime around 2019, I got super burnt out.
yeah,
I was gonzo. Like getting out of bed in the morning was just too hard.
mm,
And I was looking for anything to re-spark that joy of making games.
mm,
And I took one of these. There's a theme during the 2010 to 2020 where I like really read a lot of books. I never read. Like I'm not a reader, but I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, the 10X Rule, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. I got an Audible account and just like chain read like all of these like success books. And I think you got to kind of marinate your head in that kind of positive thing, especially when you're going through rough stuff, because whatever you kind of look at, you kind of become. But it's really easy to kind of get addicted to that feeling of fake success without actually doing anything. And we come in Artix Entertainment, all of our team members come from a long culture of like, we just do stuff. We're just
mm,
doers. Just always creating, always releasing. If it's good enough to go out and somebody's going to enjoy it, you put it out.
mm,
So I went on this. I really, really should not be admitting this on this call, but one of the things that this course asked you to do was like get a stick and go out in the woods like when you're a kid. I spent most of my childhood in the woods, like playing and building tree forts and getting into wars with the other kids. And you're supposed to walk out into the woods and talk to your inner child. I'm like, I'll do that. So I got a stick and I walked out into the woods. And I was thinking back to like, what made me love video games in the first place? And I remembered playing Castlevania as a kid. I remember playing Zelda. I remember playing Battletech on the board game. And then it hit me. My father, when I first became obsessed with games, my friend and I went to lunch with him. And he said, because I would not stop talking about Castlevania. Like, I was so obsessed with slaying the evil undead in this video game. My father says, if you guys are so obsessed with these games, why don't you just make one? And I'm all like, oh, Dad, I'm just a little kid. I don't know how to make a game. He's like, well, if these guys figured out how to make one of these things, all you got to do is figure out how they did it, and then you make one too. People always talk about like, oh, empowering, being empowerment. He actually empowered us. He just told us it's okay for you know, stupid kid here, to go try to make a game. My friend and I ran back to his house. We literally ran. It was like 30-minute run with that tiny room. He had a computer. I didn't. And for the next 30 minutes, we tried to the best of our power to build a game in like Microsoft Word for Windows like 2.0. We were dumb kids. And this is what really started the obsession, right, with trying to learn how to do this stuff. And when I was out there with that stick in the woods, I was like, how did they make one of those things? So I went, I found that there were people online making new games for the 1985 Nintendo Entertainment System. So I like stalked them, and they made the software, and I got the software, the NES Maker stuff, and I joined the community. And if you would have told me at like age 40 something, I'd be learning 6502 assembly language, I probably would have said, you're crazy. But there I was at night. I'm like, okay, doing assembly language. That's a thing. I know binary now. I'm like in the Matrix. And I met these incredible people who were all from this older way of thinking, like that early 2000s kind of people, like back, from the internet of the olden days. And it was such a great community. And I joined a competition. We had 30 days to make a game, and I did. And it was terrible. Oh, Andy, it was terrible. But I loved it so much. And I went back, and Alina, who's she's the COO. She runs everything in the company. I go, hey, I made this game. I think because every year we do an April Fool's joke. Every year. We'll turn the town upside down. We'll turn the town into stick figures and say we ran out of budget for the art. We add whoopee cushions to like all the characters and make them make sounds frequently. I said, I think we should announce for April Fool's that the next major AdventureQuest game is going to be AdventureQuest 8-bit exclusively for the 1985 Nintendo Entertainment System. And she goes, well, I can see that look in your eye. And if this is what it's going to take to get you to get back, do it. Absolutely. You have my blessing. Go do it. It's like, how long is it going to take? I said, 2 months. Andy, has anybody on your streams ever said they were going to do something in 2 months with that much confidence before that they didn't know how to do?
No, I think you're the first.
Oh, I think this is a really common thing. I think that's it's going to be a problem, right? It's never 2 months, is it?
Yeah.
So I was slaving away on this thing, and we announced, we ran a Kickstarter for it, Andy. We did a Kickstarter. We raised like $50,000 to make this NES game. It wasn't 2 months. It was like darn near 3 years. And that project was killing me. The players were mad that I was making a NES game because this game wasn't for them. This was for me. And I made a cardinal mistake of doing something that was for me and trying to, like, it wasn't what they wanted. I didn't ask them. I always asked, right? But I didn't ask. I'm just like, here. Have we talked about the 3 circles yet?
No.
There's 3 circles. This is something you want to make. This is something that your audience actually wants. And this third one is what you're capable of making. If you want to make it, but you can't make it, it ain't ever happening. If you can make it, and you want to make it, nobody else wants it, waste of time. But if they want it, and you want it, and you can make it, now you just made a laser scope, and that is going to be a successful project. The 3 circles. So I had 2 of them. Well, I had one. I had one of them. I didn't know how to do it, right? I was learning. So and I promised my players I would not use Artix Entertainment resources to build this NES game. which means I would wake up. I now had 3 kids at this point, got married. There's an epic battle wedding. If you Google epic battle wedding, you can watch my terribly embarrassing wedding where we fight in armor. We wake up, take the kids to school, go to work on all the very stressful company stuff of that era. And then I would come home, feed, get the kids to bed, 9:30. I would start on Dungeons and DoomKnights work and wrap up about 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning. Rinse and repeat, except for the weekends, because then I could work all 10 hours of a day on Dungeons and DoomKnights on Saturday and Sunday. And that lingered on for years. But I love that game project so much. I have a feeling the version of me that was sitting on the couch there saying like, I don't know how I could do this, drinking his coffee. He probably wasn't too happy, but he's happy now because he did it, right? So I did. I built this thing. But there was a lesson in this Kickstarter. And if there was the most valuable thing that I could probably share with your audience, is probably what I'm going to say next. Because upside down. I built this game with the help of Dale Coop, Gil, Pixel Pete, FJ, and the amazing artist Clarion, who was just a pixel artist who was helping me with this project. Clarion is now running AdventureQuest 3D. I built this, and I didn't just build it. Like, I went all out. We put the gold cards, we put the gold foiled boxes, we put a cloth map in there. I created an entire magazine that was a parody of issue number 2 of Nintendo Power. Tells the story of all this stuff here. Over-delivered like crazy. How this happened, this is the important part. I used to get to my computer at 9:30, and my screen was blank. Like just all the work I did do. And I'd sit there staring at what wasn't finished for like an hour, just staring, immobilized, crushed by the work that I hadn't done. And I was still in that like crazy hype mode. So whenever I do the update posts, I'd be like, oh, everything's great. Like here, this is coming, everything's really great. We're like so close. I probably didn't say that, but it was very hypey. And at night I'd just be staring like crippling under the pressure of what hadn't been done. And I had a call and someone suggested, well, have you ever just brutally honest told everybody exactly where you were at? I said, no, they'd be mad at me. See how far behind this NES game is that like is taking me forever, and I'm working like 6 hours a day on it. It's just not moving. And it's like, maybe you should try just telling them exactly where you're at. Mm. I said no. I put it off for 2 weeks, right? And then, again, eventually I was like, okay. I'm going to do this. I'm ready to do this. Mm. And I wrote this post. And honestly, this post didn't look too much different than my other posts that people said this, right? But this post changed my life, Andy. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, I just want to commit to being brutally honest, transparent. I want to tell you exactly where everything's at. This is behind. This hasn't started yet. Like, this is where it's actually at. This is going to take me a really long time to finish. And I'm committed to finish it. And I'm committed to finishing it the way that I envision without cutting any corners. And I really want to thank you and appreciate for you supporting me in doing this. And that line came from the last part of that line where you thank somebody for what you're going to do. It came from a One-Eyed Doll, a musician that was featured in AdventureQuest Worlds. Kimberly Freeman, also an inspiration of mine. She said, yeah, you, I don't want to screw up her quote, because I think she was like waitressing or something. And she said, if you make a mistake, don't say, oh, I'm sorry for being late. You say thank you for your patience, because it changes the meaning. So now everybody's going to know that this is why I say this, but it's true, because being from a place of gratitude is better than being from a place of, not. So I put this post out and I told everybody exactly where I was. And sure enough, I expected that everybody was just going to be like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, this has just been going on for so long. But they didn't say that at all. They said, oh, keep up the great work. Well, we're supporting you as long as it takes. Thank you for not compromising. And suddenly, just like that weight was off my shoulders. I started working. And I was knocking out the screens, and I had a vision. And then I came up with a plan. I was going to take all of the people and invite them to a private Discord server, and I was going to make little tiny releases of the areas and release them to these backers so that they could test them and play them. And I knew from my experience that not everybody was going to do this, and that the people that did, there would be like just a handful that would be like super testers. And they showed up. And these were the best testers I've ever worked with in my life. And now all of them are working on AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity, helping us test that.
Wow.
Like best player team recruitment ever, this project. And it just accelerated and the game kept getting better. It is the biggest, fullest, most complete, best thing I've ever made in my life. And I flashed the cart and I sat there holding this thing. Andy, I don't know if there's anything I can say to explain how I felt, because when my dad gave me that quest, right, and he had passed away, and I did it. I was holding it. I'd figured out how to make one of these things. Nobody else wanted me to make it, but I made one of these things. And I did it. Dungeons & DoomKnights went live. And it got crazy good reviews. Magazines reviewed. Do you know there's magazines, like physical magazines that review new NES games? It was getting like 9.5 out of 10. Like John Riggs, one of the greatest like NES like reviewer guys, like gave it like this. He's like, this thing reeks with quality. I'm like, oh my God. So I learned from that project to just be brutally honest. And from that moment on, the hype stuff kind of got diminished and I call it tactful transparency. So everything I did from that moment on, like I just told it where it was. Maybe I read like stereo instructions for the next year until I kind of got my tone fixed. But then it was time to figure out what was next for Artix Entertainment. And we're at the end game of this. I appreciate you letting me do this like solo TED talk. Just went off the rails on you.
That's okay. Keep going.
Is we decided that we were going to go all in and remake AdventureQuest Worlds as we've wanted to do from the beginning of time, and remake it. And we came up with the name to call it AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity, so that it could go on forever. And I don't think the players liked my brutally honest initial things, because it was like, you're never going to finish this. This game's taking a really long time. I'm like, yes, it is. And I had really screwed up because there was this video that I made back in like 2013 where I had like my iPhone 3 and I made this video of a flash animation that was running on the phone. And I had put kind of a clickbait title on it. So people was like, AQ Worlds running on a phone? And they have thrown that video back at me like every day for the past like 12, 13, 15 years. But now we're actually making it, right? Because the hardware had caught up. It wasn't possible back then. Now it's possible. So we run a Kickstarter. First, we built the game. And I was not going to run a Kickstarter until we had a working game engine and this was viable, right? We had it working on all platforms. We took it to PAX. We showed people it running. Then we said, okay, let's do the Kickstarter. I think we were like 5 years late doing this because things just kept going wrong. And I don't need to tell you, right? Like Warlick, one of my closest friends, he rebuilt this thing like at least like 10 times. Like he figured out how to do it. Spider, one of the most amazing, brilliant, like former kind of like helpful hacker who we invited to join the team. And now he is like, he's the guy who did the EpicDuel thing. And we got Tunic and of course Zoom. And we got Diagon doing the UI. We got Immortal Joe building these like really killer classes. And the game is viable. And now we're running the Kickstarter. And this is the Kickstarter that ends up making 2 point whatever million. They said, okay, how much money are we going to try to raise for this Kickstarter? And this was a weird one because the game already existed. The existing AdventureQuest Worlds is still our most popular game and updated every week. It was updated like with a little micro release today. So I said, let's do something that I don't think anybody has tried before on Kickstarter, if Kickstarter will let us. Let's try to raise $1. They said, that's a terrible idea. I said, is it? Like, it's like, well, what's your minimum package going to be if it's $1? Because like normally like $1 is like a thank you, and then like you have a package of $10, and then you have like a package of $25. I said, $1? I said, I don't think you have that many players. I said, well, here's what I think. I think the big package for this is going to be $25. And this is when you're officially going to become a founder of AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity. We're going to get you the class and the armor and the access to the stuff. We're going to get you all these items and these pets. It's going to be awesome. I said, okay, so you're going to do like a $5 package? I was like, no, do a $1 package. Why? It's like, well, we have all these players that are in, Brazil and in the Philippines, and they always say that our prices are too high. So let's add the $1 price, because if we made it $5, like, it's not going to make a difference to the campaign. Make it $1. okay, but you're actually going to give them access for $1? I said, well, we're not going to promise access for $1. So it's just going to say $1 and you're going to get like, an item. I said, okay. I said, but we're going to give them all access. They're like, well, how are you going to do that? And I was like, well, at some point during the Kickstarter, we're going to have a stretch goal. And when they hit the stretch goal, it's going to give every backer +1 key. Because that way, if you back to $25 or above, you're going to get extra keys so you can bring your friend. And I'm not really that great with math, but if you got 0 keys and you get +1 key, you get a key. So every backer's going to get a key. They're like, people are going to be mad about that. I'm like, I don't think they're going to be mad about that. Like, because they're getting +1 keys, right? I said, okay. So then we launched the Kickstarter, and on the first day, this thing just, I've never seen, like, everybody's watching this, like, never seen anything like it this in my life. And Andy, this is when it hits me. This responsibility is so heavy to deliver this game. I know we can do it. We already built it. But when you saw how many people cared about this, that they want this to happen, they were 10 years old when that game came out, and now they're adults, they have kids. Some of these players, their parents got them into the game, and now they have kids. We got like 3 generations in some of these families. So this thing's like just shooting up. And we had never anticipated it going like that. I was thinking, okay, maybe it'll do what like AdventureQuest 3D did. Maybe we'll get to 500,000. Oh my God, to dream, like never had a Kickstarter that made like $1 million, right? Like what would it be like to have $1 million? And see, normally if a Kickstarter made $1 million, that's like super huge. But if you have a $1 Kickstarter, you add 2 zeros to get to the percentage, right? So $1 is 100%. So $1 million would be 100 million% funded. So our Kickstarter is like 2 point something, like doing 200 and like 200. Yeah, we're 214 million% funded, which is, I mean, obviously like nobody was stupid enough to ever do that. So it's a world record. So we will be contacting Guinness Book of World Records once the numbers are completely final, and then see if we can claim the record for that. So the team's really excited, right? Because like this is amazing, right? Like this team wants this thing to succeed so badly. And if you've ever been part of a team and like you've had people that like maybe weren't, like they were kind of emotionally clocked out, but like everybody's fresh, everybody's excited to make this thing happen. So we're watching this Kickstarter, and we had a problem. We had a custom tier that and it's a lot of money, $500, we'll create you a custom weapon. And there's a more expensive tier for $1,500, we'll draw a custom armor and weapon set. And then we had another tier, which was called the Mysterious Stranger's Offer. It was $5,000, and it didn't even tell you what it was. It said, mysterious, I don't know, buy it maybe. When I showed the team that tier, one of the team members said, you're changing this, right? I'm like, no, I think that's going to go. Like, but nobody's going to buy that. I'm like, actually, because we had a preview page, I said, I've had at least one person contact me that says that they're going to snag that at all costs if possible. Are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, and they probably know, because we've had $5,000 tiers before, and that's like the world builder tier. So backers probably knew what they were getting, and they knew that from our reputation that, I mean, if you give us $1, we're not going to let you down. So if you give us 5,000 of those, we're going to really go berserk. So anyways, that $5,000 tier sold out in the first like couple seconds. All the customs sold out in like record time. But now we got a problem. They're mad that the custom tiers are gone. So we're like, okay, well, pull the artist. Let's do some math. Let's figure out what we can do, because it's important that if you get a custom that you have to do it in a certain amount of time, realistically, right? And we do have to be building the content for the actual game, because we got the entire storyline to do, all the stretch goals. So we're like, okay, we know what the total is we can do. Let's release these in batches. But every time we would release a batch of custom backers, we would get so much hate mail. Like they were so mad. People were like, is there a way I can just pay you directly to get on the list? And like doing the player support for this Kickstarter like required an incredible amount of integrity to be fair and consistent, to say no. It's like, sorry, no, don't take payments any other way. It has to be through here. This is how you got to do it. And I get on the phone with Alina. Again, she's the sorceress of Babylon. She's our chief of operations. She will definitely be running the company before too long. And said, okay, what are we going to do? Because there's too much pressure for this like custom tier. And we think and we think and we think. And we said, okay, what if we make another tier that's in between? And if you join this tier, you'll be on the waiting list. Because if you were okay waiting, inevitably we could get to making your customs. And we had this statue tier where you could get a statue of yourself for to be put in the game. Like if you would have backed at the statue tier, you could have like statue Andy in the game in the hall. But because of how many people wanted the customs, we were thinking, oh, we're going to get like 100 people buy these statues, right? Team member messages me and says, Artix, you're going to put these statues in the garden, right? I go, yeah. It's like, you're going to need a bigger garden. I said, how many statues do we have? It's like, about 3,000. I said, what? Oh my God. So I said, okay, let's make a tower. Let's make a giant tower that spans high into the sky, and every floor contains the statues. So we can have all of them. We can have a big garden, and we can put quests in there. So if you want your statue to be available for other people, they can go click on your statue, get your quest, go into the garden, fight the boss monsters and get your statue, and then they can put your statue in the house. Because having your statue means there's an actual database item of your statue. You can take this item and you go put it in your house. Huge, huge deal. We've never done this in the game before. We've had customs before. The statues are new. And the fact that you can put them in your house is huge. So we're like, well, if we're going to do this in-between tier, how can you make that have any value? Because you're getting a custom weapon at $500. What are you going to get at like $400? And if the goal is to always provide more value than what they're paying for, especially in the Kickstarter, we have these things called IoDAs, the item of digital awesomeness. They allow a player to get a rare item that maybe they weren't there for, they missed, but you can exchange one of these things. And these things are normally $100 a piece, but they're limited in what they can get you because there's some items that are just off limits. And we said, well, what if we made a new type of IOTA that was wider, could get more things? Okay. And I said, and in the spirit of, oh God, I told this out of order. We didn't think of that at all first. The idea was, the spirit of the project was converting as many items as possible. So what we originally said was, we'll give you 5 tokens to go sponsor items to be fully converted, which is good for the game. And if you sponsor an item, your name will go on the credits for the item. So all players can see that, Andy sponsored the Blinding Light of Destiny, sponsored by, Fully Converted. Thank you, Andy. Here's a link to his character page, so you can go check him out. Here's a link to his house. And then backer said, well, hey, what if I want to sponsor an item that's not in my inventory? Well, if you sponsor an item that's not in your inventory, it's only fair, we'll move it to your inventory. That was a great deal. Like, players at first were like, wait a minute, so I can get rare items by sponsoring these things? But then we ran into the next problem. Players were conflicted. They have items they love. They want to convert these items, but there's items that they've always wanted that they could get with this, but now they had to choose. What would you do in this situation, Andy?
So you have these tokens. With these tokens, you can either sponsor an existing product that's in your inventory or sponsor a item that you've always wanted and you can get that item. Is that the setup?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you sponsor an item that's in your inventory, does everyone else that own that item also now see your credits, or is it just the one that you're holding on to?
Oh, yeah, everyone will see it.
Okay.
But the problem is, now you have to choose. You could sponsor an item that you actually equip and you love, or you could sponsor something just because it's rare, just because you always wanted to have it. It's a tough choice, right? And I think, we were really in the shoes of the players thinking like, man, like somebody's going to use one of these things and have remorse. So we split the item into 2. Now you get 5 of each token, 5 to sponsor anything in your inventory, and 5 that you can go and pick any 5 items you want.
Wow.
That's how you create value.
Yes.
And when the players first read it, they're like, wait, are we getting screwed here? I'm like, they're not actually this smart, right? Like, this is too good of a deal. That's when we knew we did it right, because when you create that much, like, I use the word value, right? It just means like helping people get what they want. My father would always tell me the way that you create success is by helping others get what they want. So the more we reward the Kickstarter backers, the better it is for us. And I mean, there is no ceiling on the amount of like, gratitude and reward we can put on these backers, because the higher this makes them feel, the better that the more they get out of this, then they're going to feel as loved and appreciated as we do for having jobs, being able to do this. And then whenever we go do whatever's next, right, they're going to come with us, because we're going to keep that reputation, just like the old days. So we did that, and that was a huge success. And then we just had an avalanche of technical problems with Kickstarter, and the solution every time was just rebuild whatever it is, the system ourselves. So for Despair, who's a very happy person, despite having the name Despair, she's kind of our, I don't know, she's out talking with the players and community managing, and she helps with the games, and she listens to what the community's saying. She comes back to like, hey, they're thinking about this, or they want this, or there's a big movement, they should do this, and we're like, oh, okay. And then she keeps us up to date, so somebody has their finger on the pulse, because we can't be everywhere at the same time. You gotta, she's very good at hearing what the players want, right? So she's been helping with the Kickstarter emails, and then man, that team's been amazing. We hired a couple new programmers. Some of them were older members that came back. Really good to work with them again. And some of the artists that we had lost back in that 2015 era, they came back. We have people like Bleen and Nulgath, who honestly just like key figures of Artix Entertainment that are now like, it's like we put the whole band back together.
Mm-hmm.
And got a couple of new folks in there too. And we have so many things going on at once in this project. It's a big project, but it's doable. And I think over the next, I don't know, I think around October, I think this thing's going to really start shining, because I think we're going to have the Android released and the iPhone versions released by then.
Wow.
I think the main storyline is going to be underway. And I think all of the Kickstarter, because when we launched when the Kickstarter finished, I wanted to release in like 2 weeks. It took us about a month. And then we released the alpha, and then they all got their keys, and they expected like some rewards. And we had like they're like, so many rewards. I don't even know what to do with all this stuff. And the rewards weren't just infinity. They were also in the original game, because as a remake, you can log your character into both versions of the game, and all of your items work in both games.
Oh, that means I can get into the new one maybe with my old account. Interesting.
Yes, or if we can't find that, I'll make you a new. I'll help you make a new account. We'll get you into all of it. So AQ Worlds Infinity is, I mean, when you're talking about the 3 circles, the players wanted it really, really bad. We didn't know how to build it, but now we do, and we really always wanted to build it, and now we have that like laser focus. So this will be all consuming for the very distant future. But next year, Andy, is going to be our 25th anniversary. We will have been building games, and that original AdventureQuest, if we can just keep it going, there's no expectation that it wouldn't. We'd have 25 years of weekly releases in the original AdventureQuest.
Wow.
And we would be out of our minds if we don't take all this technology that we're building and take those older games and bring them to the other platforms too, which I think is the immediate future of Artix Entertainment.
Meaning like games like EpicDuel we can then play on the iPhone.
On your phone, on your tablet, on your PC, on your Mac, on Steam. And big nostalgia hit, modern, looks a little bit better. And then once we've brought all of our old games forward, then we can go tackle the next thing. But boy, I think that's a long time in the future. Maybe make some more NES games in the meantime.
What an epic journey, Adam. Wow. What an epic
So
story.
thank you for enduring the entire thing that I don't think I've ever told the entire story in one go like that.
No, what a beautiful freaking story. Reminds me of so I used to play a lot of MapleStory when I was young as well. That was the
Yeah.
one other game that I played with AdventureQuest Worlds. And they're doing like a reboot classic server. They've been working hard on creating this old reboot, like old 2008 MapleStory version. And they've done like alpha, betas, and it's sort of rebooting this hype. A lot of old people who are now adults with kids are coming back to MapleStory and they want to experience the classic world. And it's remind me like what you guys are doing is very, very cool in a similar fashion.
We have a lot of members of the teams that are huge MapleStory fans. And the especially the effects and the way that the combat looks in big numbers. There's definitely been some inspiration being drawn from that because our numbers and effects have got a lot flashier. I love that when like World of Warcraft did its like vanilla like servers classic.
Hmm.
I think that stuff is great. I love that old things are becoming popular again,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
love that indie game studios are not. They were really trashed on for a while, and now the AAA game studios look like they're kind of slipping, and all the indie game companies that they have that passion and heart behind them look like they're kind of doing better. The games industry is weird, right? It's all hit driven. So you do something right and huzzah, and then 2 seconds later, everyone's paying attention to the next hit. So to consistently build and release and produce things that people care about to make a connection with people, and perhaps that's the most important things because we didn't talk about AI at all in this
Yeah,
because
I wrote it down. I literally wrote AI vibe coding, and because I've been just, I have no technical knowledge, but I've built so many cool things with AI. So I definitely want to talk about that. Wow, we could go forever because none of these questions. Uh,
oh god.
um, yeah, I guess in the game space with your being within it, like GTA 6, that's something that I've been seeing everywhere. I've never personally played GTA, but uh, like from the sounds of it, it seems like it's going to really change the game space, and they have been extending and building the hype. What's happening there from your inside game knowledge perspective? Like as an outsider, that's what I'm seeing.
Well, I think there's a lot of people mad about the announcement by PlayStation to remove discs, but GTA like a huge franchise, and this is a really weird joke. But my 8-year-old
Hmm.
asked me every day if he can install Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm like, not yet. He's like, well, when can I play? I'm like, 5, 6 years, maybe. Sorry, this is such a non sequitur, but there's a kids game called Wobbly Life, which is basically Grand Theft Auto for kids.
Hmm.
I don't know who needs to hear that today, but it's an adorably hilarious game. But you literally like can drive anything and get into it. I think Wobbly Life is probably one of the coolest games I've ever seen. But Grand Theft Auto, like, it has a huge, massive following. Every game has been amazing. I've played them, not all of them, but five I played the living heck out of. And I think the anticipation for six is crazy. I'm mad that they're not going to be releasing it for PC until 2007 because they're only going to be releasing the console this year.
Hmm. And you talking about the statues. How many statues, and was it you said 3,000, right? How much did it cost to buy a statue? Which tier was the statue?
I know, and this is crazy, right? The statues are $250 each.
Wow.
Now, with every one of our tiers, you get every reward tier before it.
Hmm.
And one of our, you know, guiding lights, core principles, is that we deliver to the backers, and with the brutal honesty thing, we kind of set the bar here. But every time we've done something, we've tried to deliver up here.
Hmm.
So uh, I don't think this is going to be any spoiler because anybody watching the Kickstarter and what they're doing, they're like, oh, okay, whatever they do, they just kind of like keep going. So I don't think any backer of this project at any tier is going to feel bad. The $1 backers should feel like they got okay, because if you paid $1, if you backed this game at $1, you got the access, you got these items, you got this giant collection of items, all the backer pets, all the bonuses, all the stuff. You're getting the soundtrack, you're getting all the digital extras, like all the stretch goals that unlock. The $1 backers are getting all of it,
Wow.
and I don't think we could provide more value for that. Like, it's so great. And if you paid at 20, and most of the $1 backers that could bump their pledges up to 25 because of what you get at 25.
And then right now, is there like a free option to play, or is it not released? Is it only backers only playing the game?
Yeah, right now it's backers only because we're in alpha testing.
Mm,
So we had a tech demo where we did a couple of proof of concepts before we did the Kickstarter.
mm,
We had players come see us on Steam PC only.
mm,
And then we ran the Kickstarter, and then we launched the alpha.
mm,
Alpha is going to include PC, which released, Mac, which released, and Android, which is coming next. We have a working prototype. Well, it's not a prototype, right? It's like we changed so much over the past couple months that we have to like fix the interface for Android to match. But we have that like functional now. It needs polish. And then Apple iOS is the hardest to develop for because they have a very closed system. But you can sideload an APK onto an Android, but iOS is some hoops to jump through.
mm.
So we're going to do that last. But Apple also doesn't let you have an alpha or a beta. So this is really terrible. I should not be admitting this on film, but you kind of release it as a beta on Steam. It's technically a beta on Android, but it's live on iOS, right? Because
Nice.
iOS needs it to be live. It's just, I mean, our games are all in beta perpetually, so these words don't really mean anything. But the backers will have exclusive access to this, and the upholders that funded the game and made this possible will have access through closed beta. Then we'll have an open beta where we open it up for everybody to come play, which is basically going to be the live release because we weekly update every week. So it doesn't matter if you call it a beta or a live at that point.
And then, Adam, being a creative person, being a tech person, how did you go about finding a COO? How did you go about trying to like make sure that it doesn't turn into this corporate sort of, thing?
Andy, I would love to wrap telling you how I found a COO. When Cicero left to join me on AQ Worlds in 2008, GeoPedal was running DragonFable, and a fan writer from the forums had started helping, became really good friends, and this was Alina. She joined as a writer for DragonFable and started running the releases. She got really good at it. And when Cicero went to go to AQ3D with me, we needed somebody to take over AdventureQuest Worlds. GeoPedal did not want to go, so Alina took over the role. Alina took over AQ Worlds, turned that game into like, I was always running it by the seat of my pants. Cicero was better, but she had these releases like 3 weeks out. They would start working on the stuff. Like it became a well-oiled machine. She got daily releases going at some point. It became apparent that she was really, really good with people. Everybody respected her. She had incredible work ethic. And she just dedicated her life to building and running these releases. So when the other teams started, needing, because when I was focused on the new thing, she filled the void and just started watching and working with and getting whatever the other teams needed. So by 2019, 2020, Alina was basically already running the entire company. And she's really, really good. She cares about people. Like the team knows that she has their back. And I think if you were to talk to her about the experience, she would probably say, well, one of the best things I learned about game design was how you talk to programmers. And I'm patting myself in the back because I did teach her this one. Because a programmer came in and she asked for a feature and he said, no, can't be done. And he walked out. She says, well, I guess, and I said, what? No, watch this, come back. And I went back and I just asked him the same question repeatedly. And he's like, oh, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I'll do it this way. She's like, so you just asked multiple times? I said, yeah. And that's probably the only thing I taught her. She has such a huge skill set with people, and like she's just so many people on the team, right? I give them all like superhero skills, and she's a natural leader.
Wow.
And man, are we lucky to work with all the people that we work with. You know, there was the pandemic in I guess what was that, 2020? They were all working in the office. We call it the secret underground lab, which is kind of silly because it's on the second floor. And Lena and I were seeing the news break about this stuff and that it was going to come to the United States. And it was about a month before it actually happened. And I said, okay, well, let's come up with a plan. And she actually wrote out the plan and it's like, okay, well, we'll have everybody work from home and stuff. Sure enough, it happens. Everybody works from home. We stock up the lab with supplies and stuff. So if anybody needs anything, they can go there and get the supplies. So much toilet paper at the lab. And now everybody's working from home in the jammies and the lab's empty. Mm. It's that way for like, almost 2 years.
Mm.
And stuff starts kind of simmering down at the end of the pandemic. And I said, all right, let's open this thing back up. So we hired a receptionist and we said, okay, guys, you can all come back in. Gonna be like old times. And everyone shows up like, oh, this is so great. I love working around the tables because our office, we don't really have cubicles, right? We have giant tables and everybody works around the tables just like back in my living room in my original house. And we're in the big White House looking place. And everybody showed up that week, and the next week, everybody was like, hey, would it be okay if maybe I work from home? And the one person was like, yeah, I moved to Australia. And the other person was like, yeah, I moved to Georgia. I'm like, well, that's okay as long as you get your stuff done. So by week 2, there were 3 of us going into the lab. 3 of us. So I was like, okay, you can all work from home. That's absolutely fine as long as we get our stuff done. I want to work from home too. That's where I am now. So we had a lot of space up there, Andy. Like that place is huge, and now is empty. Mm. And my ongoing joke is even my ego doesn't fit up there. So we tried to lease out the space, but we couldn't find anybody that wanted to take a space that big. So then we got the idea. It's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to chop the lab up into like 3 or 4 pieces. And then we can rent out the individual units, and then we can actually keep one, and we'll still have a place to go. So we'll still be there. We don't have to lose the whole thing. So that's happening now. We're still working on the permitting.
Wow. What an epic story, Adam. I could literally talk to you forever. I usually wrap up these podcasts with these 2 questions. One, any recent discoveries that you've been implementing to your day-to-day life, Adam?
Recent discoveries?
Or last thing you've added to your routine?
I would probably, and still thinking what would be useful to anybody watching this that, is an entrepreneur. There are 3 things. One, I like writing stuff down on paper, but I also have and this isn't really new, but it's something I've been continuously improving. I created a custom web page. Actually, Miko, who's our web mistress, she created me a custom web page, and it has every link that I use organized in this giant like personal page. And then there's a JavaScript task manager on the side, and I can write my tasks for the day there. And all of my links to YouTube and entertainment are under that list. I have a rule that unless I clear my list up where it pops back up, I'm not allowed to click on YouTube. And I put this page on my Google Drive. So all of my computers have the Google Drive in the exact same place and have the homepage set on the browser. This means that every one of my computers loads up and has access to that page no matter where I am. And kind of extending that thought, I use a program called Fences for my Windows desktop. And Fences lets you drag a region, and you can organize your icons on your desktop. So if you have a very messy desktop, you can make a fence and drag the stuff in. I have not had a messy desktop since about 2015. And this is my secret. I had the cleanest desktop you've ever seen. Fences lets you drag what's called a folder portal. So you make a square, and this isn't it's not a fence. It's actually a folder somewhere else in your computer. So on my Google Drive, I have a folder called Incoming. So I have my incoming folder right there on my desktop. And anytime I get a new file, I save it to incoming. Whenever I'm working, I do everything in incoming. And then at the end of every month, I take everything in my incoming folder. And I have an archive folder, and I date it year, month, day, always with the zeros. So if it was like January, right, it'd be like 2026, 01. And then I drag the entire folder every month into the January, February, etc. So there's literally a folder on my computer called Archive, which has my desktop for every month going all the way back to 2015. Sorts beautifully. And if you just search in there, you can find anything if you've, because everything should have a place. But if it's in your junk folder, when do you clean your junk folder? You don't. You just know, oh, I was working that in October of 2020. It's probably in there. I'll go look. So, and because that's on the same place in every computer, again, my laptop, my desktop, my old machines, every machine connected to this, you boot it up, you have all of your work files in your incoming folder on the desktop. It's the cleanest, easiest experience. And if you double click with fences, it just hides everything, so you have a beautiful desktop paper. Ideally one from the AdventureQuest Worlds Infinity Kickstarter that we're going to be shipping out along with the soundtrack.
How big is your Google Drive storage? Do you have like a 2 terabyte, 100 terabyte? Well, which subscription plan?
I have the 2. That's been enough for me.
Got it.
But if you want to see something comical, I have these bins. I have about 104 terabytes of hard drive space here in my room.
104 terabytes. Oh, okay.
Because I just keep buying drives, and they're more expensive now, right? But you used to be able to get like a 16 terabyte drive for like so. It's still a lot of money, but it's less than it is now. And what I'll do is, because I'm always scared that Google Drive's just gonna somebody's gonna delete a bunch of files or whatever. So I just take the whole thing, I just back the whole thing up and forget about it. Every couple months, I just back it up and forget about it.
Yeah.
So if you look through my drives, it's going to be like copy of Google Drive, copy of Google Drive, copy.
That's so funny. I have a similar, it's called a NAS, right? Or do you guys call it a NAS as well? Or is it something different?
Yeah. I don't use them though. I use these hard drive docks.
Oh.
So I just have all the drives in these metal bin, there's special hard drive bins.
Oh, wow.
I think they're in my safe room, so they're not actually in this room. But so I have 3 docks here for each one of the computers, and then you pull it up. No, I'm gonna rip that out. So you just plug the drive in, and then you flick it on, and then you're good. And they have a little plastic cover to stop it from shaking if you're going to use it a lot. But I don't use that very often.
Wow. And then is there like a RAID 5 or 6 backup setup on it, or is it just straight RAID 0?
No, they're just single drives.
Oh, wow.
So, and I mentioned earlier in this video that I'm a pack rat. I keep everything.
Yeah.
So whenever, if you ever don't want to lose a file, send a message to me with the file, and I guarantee it'll be on every one of my computers. So I had a 286, a 486, a Pentium Pro, Pentium 3, a Pentium 4, a Pentium 5, then the laptops. Every computer, the hard drives kept getting bigger, so I had the contents of every computer copied into a subfolder of the next computer.
Crazy.
So if you go look at some of my backups, you'll find a computer that has a backup of a full computer, which inside that one has a backup of the next computer, like one of those Russian
compounds.
Yeah.
Wow. And then if you are at the office, how do you access everything you have at the home? Terabytes.
Everybody at Artix Entertainment works on laptops. So when we're not there, and then we show up and everyone's got their laptops and their extra monitors and stuff.
And then
that also made it handy because we work collaboratively. So let's say we're, I don't know, maybe this week we're doing that special anniversary event, right? We need to do some voice acting, and we need to, we don't do very much voice acting. It was silly. We need to build some art, write a script, whatever. Those people who are in the meeting will all bring their laptops and work in that room to do that. Or if we're building a feature, those programmers will gather.
Got it. Last question.
Any personal goals or focus over the next 6 months that is not work related, Adam?
Oh yeah. So my family and friends, like my youngest is currently training for his first degree black belt. So he has his probationary right now. So a huge goal is to train him to get him ready. My daughter is working on her ice skating skills. It's going to probably start competing here pretty soon, which is really weird to have ice skaters in Florida because we're known for our ice here in Tampa. My oldest, he's ready to start doing some sort of creative work, and he doesn't know what it is he wants to create, right? Because a lot of people we just consume, and it's fine to play games. It's fine to watch TV, right? It's fine to watch YouTube. It's just when you do too much of it and you're not doing the other part. Like you have to take the inspiration and use it and apply it to something, because otherwise, what's the use of consuming this stuff unless you're going to turn it into something?
Hmm.
So he tried creating his first YouTube video last weekend. I guess it wasn't his first, but like he got the cam set up and stuff. I think he'll be a lot better at it than I'll ever be. So, and then my wife, she has some very aspirational goals for stuff. So I'm going to be doing whatever I can to help her achieve those things. So yeah, my next six out of the work, lot of family oriented stuff.
That's epic. Adam, thank you so much for your time. Like there was like I literally wrote so many questions that we could have went into. I love how passionate you are, how honest you are. Yeah, I think the reason why I do this is because I love diving into other people's worlds, and you've built this such a unique world that is, yeah, so unique and so different. Like I haven't you're the first ever game developer, indie game developer CEO that I've ever talked to, so it's such a cool world to dive into. And you're also so customer focused. You're always thinking about how do I bring value to the audience, people who are listening, how do I bring value to my customers? So you're so customer focused. And thank you so much for doing this later there. But I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, Andy. And I look forward to sharing this video because you have a great channel, and it's amazing all the people you've talked to and the things that they've shared. A lot of value for people that are curious entrepreneurs. There's diamonds in all of your videos.
Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support, Adam. How do people get more of you?
Oh, thanks. Go to artix.com. All of our stuff's there. ARTIX.
Everyone go to Artix.
Right.
A good domain
Oh,
name.
look at that. How convenient.
That's such a great
Thank you, Andy.
five-letter domain. Yep. Thank you so much, Adam. Really appreciate it. Guys, if you made it this far, please let me know your thoughts on the episode. I'd love some feedback. I'll see you guys next week on another episode. Peace.